I met Olivia Carter on the warmest Monday of August. The kind of morning when the campus at Riverside College looked like a movie set. Fresh paint on the benches, lawns shaved too perfectly, freshmen pretending they weren't lost. I was one of them, but I hid it better. I had a map folded in my back pocket and a brand new notebook that still smelled like a store dot. Olivia walked into the lecture hall 5 minutes late, holding a paper cup of iced coffee and a pencil behind her ear. She said a soft sorry to the professor and took the only empty seat left, 2 rows in front of me by the aisle. Sunlight fell on her hair through the tall windows and made a thin line on her shoulder. She didn't notice, but I did. It felt like the room paused for a second and then released itself. Our professor handed out a stack of index cards and told us to write our names and a fun fact. I wrote, Ethan Miller. Fun fact, I can't whistle. When the row in front of me passed their stack back, the card on top said Olivia in neat letters, with a tiny star above the I. Fun fact, I collect postcards from places I've never been. After class. While half the room rushed out, she stood by the door searching for something in her tote bag. A postcard fell out, face down. I picked it up and turned it over. Big Sur, blue water, cliffs like a jawline. You dropped this, I said. She looked up, surprised. Thanks. It's beautiful, I said, showing her the picture. I've never been, she said, a little embarrassed. I write a note on the back and keep them for one day when I go. What did you write on this one? I asked. She took it, flipped it over and read, half smiling. Remember to stop when the road gets narrow and breathe. I nodded like I understood. Maybe I did. Maybe I just wanted to. That's how it started. 2 strangers, a postcard, and a day that felt easy. Riverside had a flat-topped science building with a door that didn't always lock. At night, the sky above it was a shallow bowl full of stars and airplane trails. Someone had dragged 2 lawn chairs up there and left them behind. The first time Olivia took me, we carried hot chocolate in paper cups and a bag of mini marshmallows that melted into glue. She lay back and pointed upward, like a tour guide. That's Orion, the belt, the shoulder, the sword. If you squint, it looks like a story. Everything looks like a story when you tell it, I said, and she laughed. That small, surprised laugh that sounded like a secret. We traded small life facts the way kids trade stickers. I was from a quiet town outside Sacramento. My dad repaired trucks. My mom cut hair in our garage on weekends. I worked summers at a grocery store. Olivia grew up in Ventura, loved the ocean, hated grapefruit, was the kind of person who brought extra napkins and always knew when someone needed one. On the 3rd night up there, she asked, "Do you believe in fate?" "I believe in schedules," I said. "Buses come when they come." "So, no?" "I believe in people choosing. Maybe that's more boring than fate." She watched the sky. "Maybe it's braver." I thought about that for a long time. I still do. Olivia and I became a routine without saying so. Coffee after intro to psych. Lunch on the steps near the art building, where a saxophone major practiced the same 4 bars every day. She studied communications. I aimed for computer science. We shared a corner table in the library by the big window with a crack in it that made the world look slightly bent. Sometimes I looked up from code and watched her highlight sentences in yellow, then go back and underline them in blue, like color could seal the truth into the page. When she caught me staring, I would point to my book and pretend my eyes had nowhere else to go. It was dumb. It was honest. Once, when the power went out in a thunderstorm, we used our phone flashlights to keep reading. She said, "I like storms because they make everyone a little softer." "Why softer?" I asked. "Because you remember you're small," she said. "And small things hold each other closer." I didn't tell her then, but I wanted to hold her so close that every storm forgot us. In October, Riverside had a night, parade, paper lanterns, high school bands, food trucks, glitter on sidewalks for weeks after. Olivia made me try a fried Oreo and laughed when powdered sugar painted my whole mouth like Snow Dot. She bought a postcard from a vendor selling handmade ones. New Orleans, all brass and balconies. She wrote, "When the street sings, sing back." Sing back, I repeated. You make it sound easy. It's not, she said. But doing it anyway is what makes it mean something. When the parade ended, we walked past the dark baseball field. The bleachers were empty. She climbed to the top row and sat, hugging her knees. I sat beside her, pretending my heart wasn't trying to shove its way out. "Olivia," I said, and the rest of the sentence jammed in my throat. I wanted to say I like you, or I think of you all the time, or you make everything quieter and louder at the same time. Instead, I said, "Do you think the cafeteria soup is ever actually soup?" She looked at me, then at the field and smiled. "Maybe on Wednesdays." My courage came and left, like parade music fading in the distance. We Decembered. That's the only word I have for it. We wore ugly sweaters and made cocoa and watched our breath in the cold. Finals turned us into night creatures. Olivia showed up to the library with a bag of clementines and put one on every desk in our row. "For luck," she said, like luck was a fruit you could peel. On the last night before break, we climbed to the rooftop to say goodbye for 3 weeks. She brought a blanket. The cold bit our ears. She tucked her hand into the sleeve of my hoodie to warm it. I thought my heart would burn through the fabric. We didn't talk about labels. We didn't need to. When I drove home the next day, she texted pictures of her mom's Christmas tree and her dad's ridiculous Santa tie. I sent a video of my dog losing his mind over a squeaky toy. We were 2 screens apart and somehow closer than ever. In spring, a letter waited for me in a stiff white envelope. Stanford University offered me a transfer scholarship. Tuition covered, housing covered, a seat in classes I'd dreamed about, and pretended I didn't. I stared at the letter so long the words wobbled. Then I called my parents. Then, slower, I told Olivia. We sat on the steps outside the math building. She held the paper like it was both heavy and thin. "Ethan," she said, and I heard the pride before the fear. "This is huge." "I know. You have to go. I know." Her eyes shone but didn't spill. "We'll make it work," she said. "People do." "People do," I repeated, making a promise with a voice that wanted to shake. On my last night before the move, we went to the Riverside fountain, the one that made everything sound like whispering. Campus was quiet. The kind of quiet that means something is ending. Olivia took a postcard from her bag. Chicago this time. Steel, water, edges. On the back she wrote, "If the wind knocks you sideways, plant your feet and become a tree." She handed it to me. "For your wall," she said. I put it in my pocket like it was a delicate machine. "What do you want from me?" I asked. I didn't mean it to sound desperate, but it did. "Tell me you won't disappear," she said. "I won't. Tell me you'll call." "I will. Tell me that when you stand in your new room on your first night, you'll think of me under the same sky." "I will," I said. "Every night." We kissed. One long, scared, grateful kiss. Then, we sat with our arms around each other until the fountain lights shut off at midnight, and it was just us and the dark and a promise we believed. Stanford was a cathedral of glass and light and pressure. Everything gleamed. Everything hummed. I tried to hum with it. My roommates were nice. My classes were hard in the way that felt like a climb. I hung the Chicago postcard above my desk and a picture of Riverside's fountain beside it. The room smelled like laundry soap and new beginnings. Olivia called that first night. We lay on our separate beds, phones pressed to our ears like shells. "Tell me everything," she said. I told her about the courtyard trees, the cafe with muffins, the size of fists, the study room with whiteboards on every wall. She told me about a new professor who wore bright socks and the saxophone major who finally learned a fifth bar dot. We made a schedule, text in the morning, call at night. We sent each other pictures, the post office line, the cafeteria salad, the way late sun turns a hallway gold. We were good at this at first. We were better than good. We were new experts at love through distance dot asterisk. Cracks arrive like bad weather, slow, then sudden, then they're all you can see. Olivia missed a call, then two. Sorry, lab ran late, she said. I believed her because she didn't lie. Week later, I missed hers. Sorry, group project, I said. I didn't lie either. We both told the truth and still drifted dot. We fought about small things because small things were safer. Who fell asleep first, who didn't answer fast enough, who used a heart where a full sentence would have been better. We apologized and did. Better, and messed up again. We loved each other from far away and found out love is not a bridge. It is a rope that needs two hands all the time. One night, she said, I wish I liked rain less. Why? Because when it rains, I want you here. Nothing else feels right. I stood at my window and watched a storm turn the courtyard into a mirror. I want that too, I said. I don't know how to do this without breaking something. Then, let's not break, she said. And we tried, like kids holding a vase with hands too small. He showed up in a photo first. Liam Hayes, tall, easy grin, arms crossed over a sweatshirt with the college logo. He stood beside Olivia in the campus garden where the marigolds always looked like little suns. Her caption said, Group Project. Heroes. Jealousy is a quick poison. It floods the brain and makes smart people dumb. I told myself not to drink it. I failed a little. Who's Liam? I asked that night, making my voice flat. A friend, she said. We're in media theory. Together. He's funny. He knows how to fix the printers. I laughed because fixing printers is a superpower. I hated that I laughed. Cool, I said. Tell him thank you from me for saving your essays. He will, she said. He's harmless. People always say harmless before the harm arrives. They aren't wrong at the time. Asterisk. A week later, Olivia sent a voice note at midnight. I played it twice. Her voice sounded tired in a new way. I'm fine, she said at the end, which is what people say when they are not fine. When I called, she didn't pick up. In the morning, she texted, sorry, fell asleep. Later, she said Liam had walked her home after a late study session. It was nice, she said. And then quickly, safe. It was safe. I tried to be the bigger person. I told myself you can't put a fence around someone you love. You can only stand with the gate open and hope they want to be there. Hope is heavy when you carry it alone. It was a Thursday. I had a midterm the next day. The kind printed on heavy paper that smells like trees. Olivia called and said the 5 words I didn't want. Ethan, we need to talk. I sat on the floor because chairs felt dangerous. Okay. I met someone, she said quietly. I didn't plan it. I didn't want to. But I like him. Liam. Yes. The room went strange, too bright, too loud. I could hear my own heartbeat like a drum in a cheap song. Do you love him? I asked, surprising both of us. I don't know, she said. I don't think I know anything right now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought we were... I stopped. Words wouldn't help. What do you want me to do? I think we should stop talking for a while, she said, and her voice broke on while like a thin stick. I said, okay, because there wasn't a word for no big enough dot. After we hung up, I lay on the floor and watched the ceiling turn into a map with no roads. Heartbreak is private even when everyone can see it. I went to class. I took the midterm. I did fine. I ate a sandwich I don't remember tasting. I walked back to my dorm and crawled under the blanket at 4 in the afternoon and didn't move until morning. When my roommate asked if I wanted to go play basketball, I said I had a cold. It wasn't a lie. Grief is a cold that climbs inside. Your bones and sets up camp. Olivia didn't call. I didn't either. Days became weeks. I dreamed in black and white sometimes, like the color had to leave for a while. I unfollowed her on social media, and then followed her again, and then muted everything, because self-respect is a staircase, and I was somewhere in the middle. At night, I played the old voice notes and listened to us laugh. It's cruel. What memories? They bring you gifts wrapped in barbed wire. 3 years later, after I graduated and moved to Oakland for work, a familiar envelope arrived at my apartment. Cream paper, cursive letters. I already knew before I opened it. Olivia Carter and Liam Hayes invited me to their wedding. I stared at the RSVP card long enough to memorize the tiny leaves printed along the edge. Then I put it back in the envelope and slid it into a drawer. A week later, I found a photo online anyway. Olivia in white at a cliffside venue in Malibu, a long veil like a sail. Liam in navy, the sky doing that thing where it pretends to be perfect. I poured whiskey into a glass and then a little more. I told myself I was happy for her. I meant, I am trying to be the kind of person she thought I was. I watched the city, lights blur outside my window, and whispered, "Congrats," to a picture that didn't answer. Life continued because that's its best trick. I wrote code for a small startup that made scheduling software for clinics. I bought a couch from a tall man who said it was mint condition and meant it had survived 3 cats. I adopted a quiet dog from the shelter and named him Comet, because Olivia liked stars, and I hated that I still let her decide things in my head. On Sundays, I did laundry and made big pots of chili and packed them into containers, like future promises. Sometimes I woke up at 3 a.m. for no reason, except that somewhere within 30 miles, the Pacific was exhaling, and I could hear it even with the windows shut. I dated a little. Nice people who did nothing wrong. I smiled and made dinner and told stories about childhood and paid for movies and went home and sat on the edge of my bed feeling like a thief. I kept their numbers but didn't call again. I told myself it was kinder to leave early than to stay and build a house with no roof. I wrote her a letter one night, on paper, with a pen. It felt like a ritual from the past, something holy. I wrote, "Live." I don't know what I'm allowed to say anymore, but I will say this. I am okay. I work. I walk the dog. I sleep sometimes. I drink more coffee than I should. I watch people cross the street and guess their stories. I try not to guess yours. I loved you. I love you. I think I always will. Not in the way that wrecks a room, but in the way a song stays in your head long after it stops playing. I hope you're safe. I hope you never stand in a kitchen at midnight feeling like a ghost. I hope the person you chose holds your hand in crowded rooms and lets you talk about nothing for hours. You told me once the stars love the night quietly but endlessly. I guess that's me now. Quiet. Endless. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just what is. I folded the paper and put it in a drawer with the RSVP card. I never mailed it. Maybe I should have. Maybe not. Some letters are spells. Sending them changes the weather. I couldn't afford another storm. Riverside announced a 5-year reunion. I ignored the emails until I didn't. In June, I drove down. Windows open. The highway a long tape pulling me backward. The campus looked smaller. The fountain sounded the same. At the alumni tent, someone shouted my name. We hugged the way people do when they want to prove they're okay. We traded lives, like business cards. When I turned, Olivia stood 5 feet away. Time does not stop, but it folds. She looked almost the same, and not at all, the kind of change that's more glow than line. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a tote with a child's sippy cup, peeking out. My stomach did a slow, heavy roll. "Ethan," she said. "Olivia." We didn't touch. We didn't have a script. Then a little boy ran up and grabbed her leg. She lifted him easily. "This is Noah," she said. "He's 2. I waved at Noah. He blinked, unsure, then hid his face. I wanted to laugh and cry, and sit down and run to my car all at once. "How are you?" she asked. "Working," I said. "Oakland, software. You?" "Still in Ventura," she said. "Freelance media." Lots of coffee, lots of laundry. We stood in the shade of a tent that held old songs. She said, "I'm glad you came." "Me too," I lied, and also didn't. A man called her name from across the lawn. "Liam." He waved. He looked like the photo. Solid, decent, comfortable in his skin. She smiled at him with the kind of steady happiness that hurts and heals at the same time. "It was good to see you," she said. "You too," I said, and meant every side of it. When they walked away, I sat on the fountain edge and let the spray cool my face. I didn't move for a long time. The world went on. Balloons popping, old friends laughing, a band warming up under a tent. My heart did its job. It didn't stop. I hated it a little for surviving. Asterisk. Back in Oakland, I tried to file the reunion under neutral. It didn't stay there. I dreamed of Olivia carrying a stack of postcards through a hallway that went on forever. Every door she passed had my name on it. She didn't knock. Dreams are rude like that. I worked more. I started running at night along the lake with Comet pounding beside me. The city lights made long ropes on the water. Sometimes I counted my steps in sets of 50 and pretended each set moved me away from something. I never checked to see if it worked. Years are slow until they aren't. Another birthday. Another winter. Another summer that smelled like hot dust and barbecues. My parents asked politely if I was seeing anyone. I lied politely and said I was taking a break from that. It wasn't even a lie. It was a label I put on a box full of old songs. Olivia posted pictures of Noah at the beach, of a new apartment with a lemon tree in a pot, of a trip to Santa Fe where the sky looked like a bowl someone had glazed perfectly blue. I liked a few accidentally before I trained myself to scroll past faster. One night, a friend brought me to a bar with a trivia night. The host asked, "What constellation has 3 stars in a row known as the Belt?" I said, "Orion," out loud too quickly. The friend clapped my shoulder, impressed. I smiled and swallowed something sharp. A Saturday afternoon in March, my phone buzzed with a Ventura area code I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. "Hi, Ethan. It's Olivia." I sat down on the kitchen floor because my legs were not invested in acting. "Cool." I replayed it twice. She sounded okay, normal, like we were still 19 and about to go get tacos. I called back. "Hey," she said. "Sorry to surprise you. I found your number in an old email." "It's okay," I said, which was a hilarious understatement. "What's up?" A tiny silence. A click of a door in the background. "My dad got sick," she said. "We're handling it. I'm fine. I remembered you know how to talk about hospitals without turning into a statue." We talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything. Insurance forms, waiting rooms, the way nurses appear exactly when you want water. I didn't ask about Liam. She didn't offer. We said goodbye like people who had found a safe alley in a busy city. After the call, I stared at the refrigerator and laughed without humor. Comet looked at me like, "Buddy, pick a lane." A week later, a postcard slid through my mail slot. Big Sur again. Same cliffs, same impossible water. On the back, in neat letters with a tiny star above the eye, she'd written, "Remember to stop when the road gets narrow and breathe. It was the same sentence from the day we met. I put it beside the Chicago card. The two looked like siblings who didn't speak anymore. I didn't reply. I didn't know the rules. Maybe there weren't any. Maybe that was the rule. I learned how to make decent pancakes. I learned that you can be lonely in a room full of good people and still be grateful for them. I learned the names of the plants on my balcony and how not to kill them. I learned that my heart was a stubborn machine and that it could run on quiet for years. On Friday nights, I cooked with friends and said things like, "Pass the oregano," and meant it. I laughed at jokes and made some. I added a second pillow to the couch because sometimes I fell asleep there with a book on my chest. And waking up with a book on your chest is a kind way to wake up. Sometimes, without warning, a smell or a song or the word Orion would pull the floor a little. I would stand still until it stopped tilting. Then I would keep going. This was not bravery. It was plumbing. You fix the leak you can reach and put a bucket under the one you can't. I saw Olivia once at Union Station in Los Angeles, a year after the call. Or I thought I did. The woman had her hair the same way, the same kind of tote, the same quick way of moving through a crowd like an apology. I followed for 20 steps and then stopped. If it was her, she didn't turn. If it wasn't, she still took my breath for a minute. I sat on a bench and watched people reunite and leave and kiss cheeks and pull suitcases. I thought about how every story in that building had someone who didn't get picked. I wasn't special. I was just one more person who loved someone who belonged to a different future. What did love leave me with? A drawer with 2 postcards and 1 letter unsent. A dog who knew when to press his head against my knee. A list of recipes. A job that kept the lights on. A habit of checking the weather in Ventura. A map of constellations I never meant to learn. It also left me kinder. Not in a saint way, just in a remember people are carrying invisible furniture way. When the new guy at work forgot a deadline, I didn't snap. When the barista messed up my order, I drank it anyway and tipped. When my neighbor's kid lost a soccer ball over the balcony, I climbed a chair to get it. None of those things fixed anything inside me. But they kept my hands busy when my head wanted to go to unhelpful places. On my 30th birthday, my parents drove up with a cake that said, "Ethan," like the cake itself was shouting. They hugged me too tight and asked enough questions to prove they loved me. We ate, and then they left at 9 because they liked the highway better before 10. I washed plates and stood at the sink watching a single bubble refuse to pop. I thought about calling Olivia and telling her nothing and everything. I didn't. I walked Comet around the block instead. The moon was a thin slice, a coin lost and found on the same night. A neighbor played a trumpet badly through an open window. It should have annoyed me. It made me smile. Sometimes life doing its noisy, imperfect life thing is enough to keep you here. I went to bed and dreamed of a field of postcards planted like flowers. 2 years later, at 1:14 a.m., an email arrived with no subject line. From Olivia Carter. I sat up in the not quite dark. The message was short. "Hey. This is going to sound strange, but thank you for being kind at the reunion. Things have been complicated. I hope you're well. I heard your app is helping clinics. That sounds like you. Fixing invisible things." Oh, I typed and deleted 6 responses. I ended with, "Hey, you don't owe me updates, but thank you for the note. If complicated means hard, I hope it gets easier. If complicated means full, I hope it stays worth it. I'm okay. Comet is old and dignified now. Take care." I didn't sign it. She knew. A month later, a friend mentioned casually that he'd heard Olivia and Liam had separated. I said, "Oh," like the word had no edges. I didn't ask questions. The friend didn't have any real answers. The rumor felt small and big at the same time, like a window opening in a room I thought was sealed. I didn't call. I didn't write. I went running instead, and counted again in 50s until my lungs complained. If she wanted me in that part of the story, she knew where to find me. I repeated that sentence until it sounded like wisdom and not fear. The last time I saw Olivia was on a rainy afternoon outside a bookstore in Santa Barbara. I was in town for a work meeting. She stepped out as I stepped in. The bell rang. She wore a gray coat, her hair tucked into the collar, a book in her hand like a passport. "Ethan," she said, soft like the rain. "Hey," I said. We stood under the awning while the street washed itself clean. She told me she was doing okay. Freelance was up and down. Noah loved dinosaurs. Her parents were fine. She said Liam moved to Seattle and that the distance had grown too real between them. She didn't look broken. She looked like someone who had carried a heavy thing up a hill and decided she could set it down for a while. I asked if she still collected postcards. Sometimes, she said. I go to the places now when I can. We didn't talk about us. There wasn't an us to put words around. When the rain slowed, we hugged. It was a careful, human hug. Then we walked in opposite directions, because that's what the sidewalk asked us to do. I turned back once. She didn't. That's not a tragedy. That's a street. I won't pretend the rest of my life turned into a lesson. It turned into a life. Work changed. Comet died and I cried into his fur the way you cry into a coat you can't take off yet. I dated a woman named Jasmine who loved basketball and taught me to cook a decent omelet. We were kind to each other, and then kind enough to end it when we wanted different futures. I went to therapy for 6 months and learned how to say the word loss without feeling like I was stealing it from people who had earned it more. Sometimes, late at night, I still spoke to Olivia in my head. Not long speeches, just small updates. Like postcards, the lemon tree made 2 lemons. I ran 3 miles without stopping. I fixed the faucet. I saw Orion again. I didn't ask the sky to carry those words to her. The sky is busy. I said them because saying them made me remember I was here. If you want a neat ending, I don't have one. I have a drawer with 2 postcards and a letter. I have a memory of a rooftop and a girl who could find constellations faster than anyone I know. I have a life that keeps walking forward. Socks and rent and movies and the way the sun lays a golden stripe on my kitchen floor at 5 in the afternoon. Do I still love her? Yes, in the way a lighthouse loves the ships it will never meet. Quietly, endlessly, with no expectation of return. That sounds sad. Maybe it is. It's also true. Some loves turn into houses. Some turn into songs. Songs don't keep you dry in the rain, but they teach you how to walk to a beat. That counts for something. On certain nights, when the air is clean and the city hums like a big soft machine, I go to my tiny balcony and look up. Orion is easier to find now. I don't know if that means I learned something, or if it just means I needed to. I take a breath, plant my feet, and become a tree for a minute. The wind knocks, but I'm sturdier than I used to be. I picture a girl on a campus steps years ago, a boy handing her a postcard, a fountain whispering behind them. I close my eyes and let the scene sit in the middle of my chest. Then I go back. Inside, rinse a plate, set out food for a dog who isn't there anymore, and turn off the porch light. The room does not feel empty. It feels honest. And sometimes, honest is the closest thing to happy I'll ever need.